r/ask Reddit. What were some times when you died inside? Being 45 minutes into a 1-hour drive to a meeting to realize you left the main reason for the meeting at home. Man, I felt this. I drove nearly 1 hour through the rush hour traffic just to realize at my destination that I now have to do it all again. Yay, let's waste 3 hours. I crochet and my old boss at work asked me for a scarf. He requested lilac, which I thought was odd, but he was super insistent and even sent me a color chart pointing out the exact shade he wanted. I bought the yarn and made him a scarf, but then ran into him and mentioned the scarf again and he started cracking up saying he was joking. Definitely embarrassing, but I'm glad I didn't actually bring it with me and give him the scarf only to find out he was being an a-hole. I wound up giving it to another co-worker who was watching the whole thing play out and she was super appreciative. That time I left school while chatting to friends and spotted my mum's car. Got in said car and uttered the usual thanks for picking me up mum, only to realize that it was not in fact my mum's car, but a complete stranger and their family. Were they good sports about it at least? I kinda sat there for a minute staring while my brain came to the decision that yes, this is indeed the wrong car. Perhaps I should get out. The dad just said wrong car and I left and pretended that nobody saw my horrifying mistake. My girlfriend decided she liked my best friend more, broke up with me, tried to get with him but he friend-zoned her right off the bat. It was sad for a long time but now I think it's hilarious. Her best friend is a bro. I was supposed to fill in for the coach of my son's soccer team this weekend, but plans changed. This morning I told my son I wouldn't be coaching his team on Saturday. He said, "Good," dead inside. Maybe he is just shy? Anything but. He's 13 and parents are embarrassing. I had a customer who was holding and examining an awkward, fragile, and expensive item with one hand. I asked her to please hold it with two. She turned to look at me. She only had one arm. You know, out of all the great answers in this thread, this is the one that actually made me laugh out loud. I can almost picture your face as she turns around. Was on a TV quiz show and totally ducked up. Died inside when it was aired. Having to repeat a clever off-the-cuff joke because the person was focusing on their phone. When you're having a conversation with your friends and you keep getting talked over like you never said anything, and by the time someone does acknowledge you the subject has changed, so they all give you a weird look for being so behind, and it keeps happening and you realize that these people aren't really your friends, you're just kind of there. I think the moment you realize that no one gives a shit about what you're even saying is the worst, and you kinda just sink into yourself and become all quiet BC. You can't be bothered in being in the conversation anymore. Interviewing a potential student who is interested in my school. He has a huge green circle around his eye. Whoa, quite a black eye. What did you do? I was born like this. Oh wow, I did this once at my job when I was in high school. I worked with this guy for 3 years. And one day he had this huge cut all the way up his arm. I asked him what happened and he looked down and awkwardly told me he had psoriasis and was having a flare up. All I could say was no way, so does Kim Kardashian. You could be famous. Made almost 0 sense and I felt so bad. He was cool about it though. I'm sure that kid wasn't too upset. He knows what's up. At a company event, as we left, my colleagues were nowhere to be found as I walked outside. So I waited there. Turns out they were taking a group photo without me. My friends did this at prom. Last year a work friend of mine died. After his funeral, a large group of us went to pub to have a few drinks in remembrance of him. Someone suggested to get a group photo of everyone there. I was asked to take the photo. It probably shouldn't have bothered me as much as it did, but it did. I'm sorry for your loss. That's ducking rude of those people. I received a set of boxes in the mail with no return address on a Monday morning. When I opened the boxes I started noticing stuff that is my mom's, her handwriting on notes. This seems to be some sort of care package from my mom. Was in college at the time. As I opened more, there were all these documents. I was confused. Then I found the note. My mom committed suicide but planned it all out. She sent me a list of things to take care of now that she's gone. Now I hate getting packages. I'm so sorry, mate. I hope things turn it around and get better. One night after going to a concert with one of my friends and I dropped him off at his house, As he was getting out of the car, he started looking for something. When I asked him what he was looking for, he said, "I think I lost my weed." He had about a half an eighth left in a baggie and gave up after looking around a bit, concluding he lost it at the show. Cut to 10 minutes later, and I, on the way home, got pulled over for not coming to a full stop at a stop sign. As the cop approached the car, the thought of my friend's lost bag crossed my mind. The cop went through the usual routine, asked for my license and registration, asked where I'd been that evening, have I had anything to drink, is there anything in the car he needed to know about. I answered everything flawlessly, but then as he's standing there, I see something catch his eye as he's looking in, and he shined a flashlight inside on it, and asked, "What's that?" I died inside when I looked over and saw, perfectly framed in the spotlight, my friend's bag of weed on the passenger side floor. How he didn't find it while looking around I'll never understand. Somehow, I was able to articulate my case that it wasn't my weed but my dumbass friend's well enough that he took pity on me and just confiscated it and let me off with a warning for that, plus a $70 ticket for the stop sign. Watched lesbian porn and accidentally casted it onto the main TV in the living room, where my parents were watching TV on. I've always been afraid to do this. Those buttons shouldn't exist so accessibly. Literally all that happened was that my screen rotated and suddenly my finger was on that button. I've told this story before, but there was a time when I knew I was coming down with what I was sure was going to be an absolute bastard of a cold, already beginning to feel a little fuzzy in the brain. I decided to make myself some chicken soup in advance to get me through the worst of it. I chopped some carrots, chopped some onions, threw in a chicken carcass and over the course of about 4 hours made the most bomb stock you could imagine. Then my dumbass poured it through a colander directly into the sink. It took me a good 30 seconds before I realized what I'd done. Then I just sat on the kitchen floor for about 10 minutes, gazing at the opposite wall and wishing real life had a Control-Z function. My heart sank reading that. Setting: junior high. Status: awkward preteen. Style: liked cats. Very shy. Walked out of the school bathroom. Noticed after a bit that the popular girl in school was watching me, giving me a strange look. She then approached me and wordlessly pulled my skirt out of my underwear that I'd just tidily tucked in with the rest of my uniform. Then just walked away to avoid my shame, as I'd just been walking around with my panties showing. That was really nice of her. She didn't tease or mock you. She just fixed it for you. Although I totally get why you were embarrassed. I found a resident at my work, CNA, crying, and when asked what was wrong he responded, "I have baby brains." For some context, I work at a traumatic brain injury center. For these types of people, this is their permanent home. And coming from someone who is usually caught in a 3-sentence loop, the self-realization was something I didn't think he was capable of. Feel Spedman JPEG. Jish. I can't even imagine. How did you respond? I initially thought no but replied with something like, "Hey, that's not the case, you're a full grown man," and proceeded to breathe with him to calm him down. It ended with us laughing and him calling me a pretty cool dude. In the 7th grade, I got my back to school clothes. For some reason, I thought yellow pants and a yellow Hawaiian shirt looked awesome. I was excited to wear this new outfit. We were not wealthy, so having new clothes like this was a big deal for me. Sitting in my English class, I received a note. It said, "Are you the mustard man?" and was signed by every person in the ducking class, and as I read it, they all burst out in laughter. All of them. It's a moment in life where you have to laugh or cry, and either way you die inside. I chose to laugh. Kids are cruel. I had something similar as a kid. Had a light blue tracksuit that I loved in the 3rd grade, early 2000s. Don't judge my fashion choices. And a girl told me that I looked like an Oompa Loompa. Never wore it to school again. Also, Oompa Loompas look nothing like that. Brianna. I guess my birthday, since my dad died an hour before it. My uncle died the night of it, really the early morning after. And my aunt almost died on it but managed to make it another month. Separate birthday years at least. Thank you for clarifying it was different years, because I was about to say that's the most ducked up thing I've seen so far, but I'm sorry for loss. Think I am late and this will get buried, but when I was in high school I used to swim competitively. So speedos, hat, etc etc. One morning session I was running a bit late and got changed super quick and went out to the poolside with my gear getting ready for the training session. When one of the girls, who I happened to fancy at the time, informed me that one of my testicles was hanging out the side of my speedos. I thought it felt a bit breezy as I ran out the changing room, but never crossed my mind what had happened. I look back and laugh about it now, but my god, the embarrassment at the time. I still wonder how many others saw and didn't say anything. Hahaha. When our beloved cat developed a cancerous tumor and had to be put to sleep, the vet asked if I'd like to hold him as he was euthanized. Foolishly, I said that I would, wanting to be with him until the last second of his life, not realizing the emotional impact it would have. I know it sounds overly sentimental, but it felt as though part of me died with him that moment. Even as I type this, I'm reliving it. Picking up the body of our 3-year-old cat after a hit and run. I rescued him at a few hours old after his mother rejected him and attacked him. We bottle fed, replaced his hot water bottle and pooped him, don't ask, every 2 hours, including through the night, for weeks. Against all the odds, he survived to be the most loving and affectionate cat I've ever known. He was so obsessed with us because we were effectively his mummy and he was never weaned. And that morning I got the call he'd been killed by a car. I tried to pick him up, but his lifeless body was so floppy and heavy, but familiarly warm. I thought I would drop him. I will never forget that feeling. Also, all the while knowing I was going to have to tell my husband and our 2 small children. When I was about 9, I was in a school assembly, all 400 students and all teachers. At our school assemblies the students sat cross-legged on wooden floor in the sports hall. Well, I had to fart, and I assumed it would be quiet. It was not. It ended up being extremely loud and was amplified by the wooden floor. When my cousin, almost brother, died from a weird disease, and all our family members who'd watched us grow up together and be inseparable would look at me with pity and silent compassion. It just made me feel worse every time. They still do it every now and then, even though tomorrow will be 3 years since he passed, and it still makes me feel awful. When I went to the pool with my family, my aunt forgot my cousin's activity access card. Basically, in our town you get this one kind of ID card where it allows you to get books at the library, prove you live in the town, and in this case, go to the pool for free all summer. Otherwise you paid $10, and she's usually the chillest person ever. I assume she's gonna pay it and so take my 10-year-old cousin towards the female side of the changing rooms. Hey, you are not going anywhere, insert cousin name here. Today I learned I fix this with this bitch. I turn around. My aunt starts yelling Karen style at this poor summer worker that must be about 14 that she always comes to this pool and it's unacceptable to make her pay when they always have the card. My cousin had to stay and watch through the gates because she couldn't go in and my aunt just took the car and left. I paid so she could come in with us instead of crying her eyes out cause her mom can't be damned to pay $10. She came back huffing with the card and nearly threw it at the employee before even realizing her daughter wasn't in front of but into the pool. She didn't even look for her. I wanted to die. In 4th grade, my school had a fundraiser around Valentine's Day where you could buy a carnation for $1 or a rose for $2. It would then be delivered with a message to the person of your choosing. I liked a boy in my class, so I decided to buy him a rose and write a note from his secret admirer. Well, I couldn't wait for the rose to be delivered, so I wrote a note and slid it under his book when he got up to go to the bathroom. His friend saw because I'm about as stealthy as an elephant on roller skates. Friend took the note, read it out loud when the boy got back. The rose came not long after. The boy took it, looked at me, snapped the rose in half, and threw it in the trash. Also there was the recurring instance of being the target of my friend likes you. EWWWW no I don't. Does wonders for a girl's self-esteem, especially since my mom continued the insults at home lol. When my dad told me he was obligated to love me, but he didn't have to like me, I was 10, and I was absolutely crushed. Was on a Skype call for work with about 25 other people. Had the mic on my computer turned all the way up and was typing on my computer almost continuously. About 15 minutes into the meeting, Someone finally IMs me to turn off my mic because nobody could hear what was being said. Oh yeah, I've also been the one who was singing to my cat while on a conference call. Accidentally sent a picture of my tits to my family WhatsApp group instead of my guy. My mum replied by sending a recipe for Yorkshire puddings. I was in a busy post office with my daughter who was a 3 at the time. I was wearing track pants and going commando. I was talking to the clerk and my daughter pulled my pants down right to my ankles. I thought I was going to die of embarrassment. The entire lineup of people behind me saw my bare ass. When I was 18 and at a carnival with a group of people I knew from school, including my longtime crush, at some point, people started dropping off from the group, going on rides, getting food, that kind of stuff. Eventually, it was only me, my crush and my little sister, little as in almost 16. I kept waiting for her to leave, too, to go find some of her friends or whatever. After hanging out together for another 15 or so minutes, it slowly dawned on me that it wasn't him and me waiting for her to leave, but them waiting for me to leave. They shortly after became a couple for a few months. It later turned out that they got to know each other at my 18th birthday party 2 months prior. They never met before. When my sister got back later that evening she told me that and said, "You don't mind, do you?" I did mind. Very much. Farted and sneezed at the same time whilst queuing at a fast food place. Because of the sneeze, the fart shot out so fast it actually hurt my ass, so I screamed ouch as it happened. Felt like a proper dund. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cuss you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.